My name is Petya Rasheva, an alumna at the Stanford LEAD program. I am talking today to Jose Pablo Gomez, the Chief Financial Officer of ENAP, one of the largest oil and gas companies in South America, with offices in Chile, Argentina, Ecuador, and Egypt. Welcome, Jose Pablo.
Thank you, Petya. Thank you for the invitation also. Good morning from Chile to everyone.
And good evening from Jakarta.
Mm-hmm.
Jose Pablo, you have built a remarkable career. Would you please briefly tell us about your career path?
Well, today I'm the CFO at the Empresa Nacional del Petróleo, ENAP, which is the only oil producer here in Chile. We have 2 or 3 refineries, so we provide the diesel and gasolines for this country. Previous to that, I was for 14 years the head of the finance public division at the Ministry of Finance, which was an office in charge of financing the budget law. And previous to that, I think it's useful for you to know that I was a senior economist at the World Bank in Washington, D.C., working for the health and poverty group for Latin America and Caribbean.
Jose Pablo, we have known each other for many years, and I have been following your career. And it is impressive that before coming to the private sector, you spent, as you mentioned, many years in the public sector. And in Chile, you were actually responsible for the country budget for many, many years. That was a political, perhaps, post, but you kept it for all these years in spite of the change of governments. How did you do that?
Well, you're right. I worked for 14 years for 2 right governments and 2 leftist governments. Mrs. Bachelet and Mr. Piñera. And I think it was very useful for me to be very professional, very transparent, prudent, if you want, and very frank. I think for any minister who is in charge of the public finance as a whole, trying to balance at the same time inflation and growth, to have a very, very frank conversation. You have no time to waste with them. And at the end of the day, they appreciate your help if you are professional enough to mark some point for them. So I try to be that way. And also, I give them the opportunity to fire me several times in order to have them the opportunity to provide some feedback in what kind of help or support they need. So that attitude, I think it was very useful for that time.
And in the World Bank, you're very modest to say that you were an expert, but actually you were responsible for the whole region. What do you think was important for your development and your successful work at the World Bank?
Well, I worked there almost 4 years for Argentina, Uruguay, Bolivia, Peru, and not Chile, but sometimes some support for other countries. Engagement is the first task as a team leader. Engagement with your team and with the countries. I remember a time in which I had 16 different ministers as counterparts in different projects. in that sense, you need to understand what are their concerns, what are their needs, and in which way we can support them. So the ability to listen, the perseverance, to be motivated in the dialogue with them, and as I mentioned before, to reach an engagement with your local teams and with them is critical. If you are not able to do any of these things, you are just a technical advisor with no ability to make them sign up a loan for the bank, or even to have a good project, even in a circumstance in which you are not there. You need the job to be done when you are not in the country. So you need to have them very involved in the ideas you are agreeing with them. So the engagement, I think, is a critical part.
It is indeed. And Jose Pablo, looking back, you mentioned that motivation important, perseverance are important. But looking back, what do you believe has been critical in your path to power?
For me, I think I consider myself a person eager to learn first time. I mean, I entered this company wanting to collaborate, of course, but also to learn new things, to know new people. So in that sense, I consider myself from reasonable to highly motivated and perseverant. I think that's I don't like the no as an answer. I try to get things done. I mean, what you know me before, as you say, so you know that I try to get the best of their teams, but motivation and perseverance, I think, are critical for me, at least.
In our preliminary conversation, you used a very nice metaphor about a football team.
Okay. As a soccer team, I don't think you are a good team manager if you want to change everyone in the team. You need to obtain the best effort from every person in your team. So, as I mentioned, when we're talking about the World Bank, the idea of engaging your team first, focus on your goals, of course, and also in the focus on trying to reach the main aspect of their personalities are very important to engage them. If you reach that, they are not only happy but committed to the goal. This involvement is very important, very critical, and it's as important as the moment in which your team decide with you that they need to be reinforced, or the team needs to have some changes, or perhaps to let go any member of the team, because the team becomes more important than any person on the group. So I try to be like this soccer manager, to work with the team they have, and that's an experience for the public sector. Into the public sector, you are not able to change anyone when you take a position.
Jose Pablo, now you are in the private sector. You're the CFO of ENAP. What is the difference in the private sector, reaching a position of seniority, how different it is to maintain it?
Well, the accountability is slightly different. We have here to report a board. So you have several point of view at the same time about your performance, which is a very interesting thing. At the same time, you have easier ways to define your KPIs and to compensate or change your teams. So you have perhaps more tools than the public sector. But at the same time, the company needs faster or quicker results. You are not aiming at a country who is growing, but you are aiming at have blue numbers at the end of the year, the fiscal year at least. So the pressure is you have more tools and you have more pressure, and there is no secret here, but you need to have the balance between your reachable goals and your manageable tools. So that's the difference. There are similarities. The management of power is basically the same. It's necessary to have the same concern about the real interests, both for the company and for the board person who are part of the board or the directors. So having that in mind, you need to be really aware about the formal results and sometimes the symbolic results. You need to have low numbers, but with a good standard of reputation. I think all this ESG, for example, ESG measures helps you to formalize this soft side of the performance. But in fact, you need to be aware of these formal results and quality or aesthetical or symbolic results. So that's a similarity, but also a difference.
That's very interesting. Thank you. And Jose Pablo, for many years you have been in very stressful positions. You've been quite busy. How do you rest and recover?
That's always a good question. Sometimes I'm not able to rest. I think any manager in the world feel the stress and go to sleep with your head full of concerns, ideas, or any kind of waste. But some routines can help you. First, some sports. It sounds obvious, but it's not. So I try to climb with my wife in a gym at least once a week. Sometimes I hike. I also try to go out of Santiago with my family. We have a small flat in the beach. And I try to maintain a close contact with my friends. Even when some of them come to Chile, I reserve time to be with them as much as possible, as you may know. And that's my way to cope with that. Some friends, family, some sports. And the last but not the least in Chile we enjoy very good wine. So to be at the beach with a good white wine, or with my friends with red wine, is always a good recipe.
That's a very good point indeed. Thank you very much, José Pablo, for this conversation. It's been very, very interesting. Thank you on my behalf and on behalf of my classmates at the Stanford Lead.